Think about the most likable person you know. Not the most popular, not the loudest, not the one with the most followers on social media, but the person who, when they walk into a room, people light up. The person who makes you feel seen, heard, and valued. The person you genuinely enjoy being around. What makes them likable? If you're like most people, you might think they're charming, they're funny, they're naturally good with people. I could never be like that without pretending to be someone I'm not. Here's what I want you to consider today. Likeability is not about being the life of the party. It's not about having a sparkling personality or telling the best jokes. It's not about being an extrovert or a social butterfly. And it's certainly not about pretending to be someone you're not. Likeability, according to decades of social psychology research, is about something much simpler and much more accessible. It's about making other people feel good about themselves. That's it. That's the secret. The most likable people in the world are not necessarily the most interesting, the most attractive, or the most successful. They are the people who have a way of making you feel interesting, attractive, and successful when you're around them. Today, we're going to explore the science and art of likability. We'll look at what the research actually says about why people like each other. We'll examine the specific behaviors and mindsets that make someone more likable, none of which require you to change your core values, your personality, or your authenticity. And we'll address the fear that many people have, that becoming more likable means becoming fake, manipulative, or people-pleasing. It doesn't. In fact, the most effective likability strategies are rooted in genuine interest, authentic curiosity, and real respect for others. By the end of this video, you'll have a practical toolkit for increasing your likability without changing who you are at your core. Part 1. The Likeability Paradox. Let's start with a paradox that most people don't understand. The more you try to be liked, the less likable you often become. Think about it. Have you ever been around someone who was clearly performing? Someone who laughed too hard at your jokes, agreed with everything you said, complimented you excessively? Didn't it feel off? A little uncomfortable? Like they wanted something from you? That's the likability trap. When you're desperate for approval, people can sense it, and it repels them. Why? Because desperation signals low status. It signals that you don't value yourself enough to be honest. It signals that your primary concern is not connection but validation. The researcher Robert Cialdini, in his classic book Influence, writes about what he calls the click-whir response, the automatic mental shortcuts our brains use to make decisions. One of those shortcuts is, people who are desperate for my approval probably don't have much to offer. Here's the counterintuitive truth. The key to being liked is to stop needing to be liked. Not in a cold, detached, I don't care what anyone thinks way, but in a way that says, I value myself. I'm comfortable in my own skin. I'm not here to perform for you. I'm here to connect with you authentically. The author and speaker Mark Manson puts it this way: the desire for a more positive social experience is itself a negative social experience. The acceptance of your own social imperfections is itself a positive social experience. When you stop trying to control how others perceive you, you relax. And when you relax, you become more present. And when you're more present, you become more likable. So the first step to becoming more likable is actually an internal shift, not an external one. Stop asking, do they like me? Start asking, am I being myself? Am I present? Am I genuinely interested in this person? When your focus shifts from being approved of to being authentic, the likability paradox resolves itself. Part 2. The Psychology of Liking. Now let's get into the research. What does social psychology actually say about why people like each other? There's a fascinating study by the psychologist Elliot Aronson that looked at the pratfall effect. Aronson found that people who were highly competent became more likable when they made a small mistake like spilling coffee on themselves. But people who were average became less likable when they made the same mistake. Why? Because perfection is intimidating. When someone is too perfect, we feel inadequate around them. But when they show a small flaw or a crack in the armor, we relax. We see them as human. We can relate to them. This is why people who never make mistakes, who always say the right thing, who seem to have it all together, they often come across as cold, distant, or untouchable. They're not unlikable, exactly, but they're not approachable. The most likable people allow themselves to be human. They admit when they're wrong. They laugh at their own mistakes. They don't pretend to have all the answers. Another key finding from the research: familiarity breeds liking. The more we're exposed to someone in a positive or neutral context, the more we tend to like them. This is called the mere exposure effect, first documented by psychologist Robert Zajonc. It's why you might find yourself liking a coworker more after seeing them every day for 6 months, even if you didn't notice them at first. It's why brands spend millions on advertising just to get their name in front of you repeatedly. This has practical implications. If you want to be more likable, find ways to be present consistently, reliably, warmly. Show up, not in a pushy way, just be there, be available. Be someone that people see regularly in a positive context. The third major finding: we like people who like us. This seems obvious, but it's deeper than you might think. When someone shows genuine interest in us, asks questions, remembers details, follows up, our brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. We feel safe, we feel valued, we feel drawn to that person. But here's the catch: it has to be genuine. Fake interest is worse than no interest. People can sense when you're going through the motions, when you're asking questions just to seem interested, when you're not really listening. The research is clear. Authentic curiosity is the single strongest predictor of likability. Not charisma, not humor, not confidence. Curiosity, the genuine desire to understand another person, who they are, what they care about, what makes them tick. Part 3, the 5 pillars of likability. Let's move from research to practice. Based on the social psychology literature, here are the 5 core behaviors that make someone more likable, none of which require you to change who you are. Pillar number 1, presence. The single most valuable gift you can give another person is your full attention. In a world of constant distraction, phones buzzing, notifications pinging, minds wandering, the person who is actually present stands out. They look at you when you speak. They don't glance at their phone. They're not thinking about what they're going to say next. They're listening. Presence communicates respect. It says, you matter. What you're saying matters. I'm not going anywhere. The psychologist Carl Rogers called this unconditional positive regard, the ability to accept and value another person without judgment. When you offer someone your full presence, you're offering them a rare and precious gift. Pillar number 2, curiosity. We talked about this earlier, but it's worth repeating. Curiosity is the engine of likability. Curious people ask questions, not interrogating questions, not performative questions, but genuine, open-ended questions that invite the other person to share something about themselves. What was that like for you? How did you get into that? What do you enjoy most about it? Curiosity shifts the focus away from you, which is where most people are stuck, and toward the other person. And when people feel seen and heard, they associate that good feeling with you. Pillar number 3, warmth. Warmth is the emotional tone of your interactions. It's conveyed through small things: a genuine smile, a relaxed posture, a kind tone of voice. Research by Amy Cuddy and her colleagues at Harvard found that people judge others on 2 primary dimensions: warmth and competence. Warmth is about trustworthiness, friendliness, and empathy. Competence is about skill, intelligence, and capability. Here's what's fascinating: people judge warmth first. Before they care about how competent you are, they want to know, are you safe? Are you friend or foe? If you come across as warm, people will forgive minor competence gaps. If you come across as cold, no amount of competence will make them like you. The good news: warmth is not about personality. It's about behavior. You can choose to smile. You can choose to relax your body language. You can choose to speak kindly. Pillar number 4, reliability. There's a reason trust is the foundation of all relationships. People like people they can count on. Reliability doesn't mean being perfect. It means doing what you say you'll do, showing up when you say you'll show up, following through on small promises. When you're reliable, you communicate respect for other people's time and energy. You become someone they don't have to manage, chase, or worry about. And reliability is completely compatible with being authentic. You can be quirky, introverted, unconventional, and still be reliable. Pillar number 5, humility. The most unlikable people are often the ones who need to be right all the time, who need to be the smartest person in the room, who need to dominate every conversation. Humility is the antidote. It's the ability to admit when you're wrong, to learn from others, to give credit where it's due, to not take yourself too seriously. The writer C.S. Lewis once said, "Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less." Humility shifts the spotlight away from your ego and onto the relationship. And people are drawn to that. Part 4, the Myths of Likeability. Before we go further, let's clear up some common myths about likability, because many people avoid trying to be more likable because they believe these myths, and they don't want to become something they're not. Myth number 1, likable people are extroverts. This is simply false. Many of the most likable people are introverts. Why? Because introverts tend to be good listeners. They don't need to fill every silence. They give others space to speak. They ask thoughtful questions. Introverts often struggle with the misbelief that they need to be loud to be liked. You don't. You just need to be present, curious, and warm. Myth number 2, likable people never disagree. This is also false. In fact, people who always agree, the classic yes men, often come across as insincere or spineless. Healthy disagreement, expressed respectfully, can actually increase likability. It shows you have a backbone. It shows you're honest. The key is how you disagree. Attack ideas, not people. Acknowledge where you agree before stating where you differ. Keep your tone respectful. Myth number 3, likability is about being impressive. People are not drawn to those who try to impress them. They're drawn to those who make them feel impressive. This is a critical distinction. If you spend your time talking about your achievements, your credentials, your interesting life, you might be impressive, but you're not likable. People will admire you from a distance, but they won't want to have coffee with you. If you spend your time drawing out their achievements, their interests, their stories, they will associate that good feeling with you, and they will want to be around you. Myth number 4, likability requires you to be fake. This is the fear that holds so many people back. If I try to be more likable, I'm being manipulative. I'm pretending to be someone I'm not. But here's the refrain: likability is not about performing. It's about removing the barriers that prevent your authentic self from connecting with others. Most of the time, we're not too unlikable. We're too in our heads, worried about how we're coming across, anxious about what to say next, stuck in our own insecurities. The strategies we're discussing: presence, curiosity, warmth, reliability, humility are not masks. They're skills. They're ways of removing the internal static so that the real you can show up and connect. Part 5, the practice small shifts, big results. Let's get practical. Here are small, actionable shifts you can make starting today, none of which require you to change your personality or values. Shift number 1, remember names. This is a classic for a reason. Dale Carnegie, in his timeless book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, wrote, "A person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language." When you remember someone's name and use it naturally in conversation, you signal that they matter to you. You signal that you see them as an individual, not just another face. Practical tip: when you meet someone, repeat their name immediately. "Nice to meet you, Sarah." Then use it once or twice more in the conversation. Then, after you part, write it down. Review it later. Shift number 2, ask follow-up questions. Most people ask surface-level questions and then move on. "How was your weekend?" "Good, yours?" "Good." End of conversation. Likeable people ask follow-up questions. "You mentioned you went hiking. Where did you go?" "Oh, I've been there." "What was your favorite part?" Follow-up questions do 2 things. They show you were listening, and they invite the other person to go deeper, which feels good to them. Shift number 3, give specific compliments. Generic compliments feel nice, but they don't stick. "You look nice today." Fine, but that color really brings out your eyes. "Well, I love how you handled that meeting. You were so clear and calm." Those land differently. Specific compliments show you're paying attention. They show you see something unique about the person. Shift number 4, put your phone away. When you're with someone, really with them, put your phone away. Not on the table, face down. Not in your pocket where you can feel it buzz. Away, in your bag, in another room. This single act signals, you have my full attention. Nothing is more important right now than this conversation. Shift number 5, remember small details. Did someone mention they were nervous about a presentation? Follow up the next day. How did the presentation go? Did someone mention their child was sick? A week later, is your daughter feeling better? These small follow-ups take almost no effort, but they land like a tidal wave. They say, I remember you. I care about what matters to you. You're not just a random person to me. Shift number 6, ask for advice. This is a counterintuitive strategy. Most people try to be likable by being helpful. They offer advice, solve problems, give opinions. But research shows that asking for advice can be even more effective. When you ask someone for their perspective, you signal that you value their judgment. You make them feel competent and trusted. And people like people who make them feel competent and trusted. Part 6. The Authenticity Paradox. Now let's address the concern that often comes up at this point. If I start doing all these things, remembering names, asking follow-up questions, giving compliments, am I being authentic? Or am I just performing? This is the authenticity paradox. On one hand, we want to be liked. On the other hand, we don't want to be fake. The tension between these two desires can freeze us into inaction. Here's how to resolve the paradox. Authenticity does not mean behaving exactly the same way in every situation. That's not authenticity, that's rigidity. Authenticity means your actions are aligned with your values, even if they're adapted to the context. If you value kindness, then remembering someone's name is an expression of that. Kindness, not a performance. If you value curiosity, then asking follow-up questions is an expression of that curiosity, not manipulation. The psychologist and author Dr. Brené Brown writes, authenticity is a collection of choices that we have to make every day. It's about the choice to show up and be real, the choice to be honest, the choice to let our true selves be seen. These choices to be present, to be curious, to be warm are not betrayals of who you are. They are expressions of the best parts of who you are. The alternative is not authenticity. The alternative is hiding. Hiding behind your phone, hiding behind small talk, hiding behind the fear of being seen. The most authentic version of you is not the version that isolates. It's the version that connects. A note for introverts. If you're an introvert, some of these strategies might feel draining. That's okay. You don't have to use all of them all the time. The research on introverts and likability is clear. Introverts are often more likable than extroverts in one-on-one settings. They listen more. They ask deeper questions. They create space for others. So don't try to become an extrovert. Just lean into your strengths. Use the quiet, thoughtful, present energy that comes naturally to you, and give yourself permission to recharge afterward. Part 7. The Boundaries of Likeability. One final, crucial point. Being more likable does not mean being a doormat. It does not mean saying yes to everything. It does not mean sacrificing your boundaries, your values, or your well-being to make others comfortable. In fact, people who lack boundaries are often less likable in the long run, because they become resentful, because they're not honest about their limits, because people can sense that their niceness is coming from fear, not from choice. The most likable people have clear boundaries. They say no when they need to. They express their honest opinions respectfully. They don't disappear into what others want. Why? Because boundaries communicate self-respect, and people respect people who respect themselves. The author and researcher Dr. Brené Brown writes, the most compassionate people are also the most boundaried. So as you practice these likability skills, keep your boundaries intact. Be present, but don't let people monopolize your time. Be curious, but don't pry into areas that are clearly private. Be warm, but don't suppress your own feelings to keep the peace. Be reliable, but don't overcommit. Be humble, but don't let people walk all over you. Likability without boundaries is not likability. It's people-pleasing. And people-pleasing is not sustainable. Conclusion, the person people want to be around. Let's come back to where we started. The most likable person you know. The one who lights up the room. The one who makes you feel seen. What makes them likable? Is it their charm? Their humor? Their charisma? Maybe, but more likely, it's something simpler. They make you feel good about yourself. That's the secret. That's the skill. That's the art. And here's the beautiful thing, you don't need to become someone else to do it. You just need to show up, be present, be curious, be warm, be reliable, be humble. You don't need to be the funniest person in the room. You just need to be the one who listens. You don't need to be the most interesting person in the room. You just need to be the one who's interested. The writer and theologian Henry Nouwen once said, The greatest gift you can give another person is your undivided attention. That gift is available to you right now, right here. You don't need to change who you are to offer it. You just need to put down your phone, look someone in the eye, and ask, "How are you?" Really? That's not performance. That's not manipulation. That's not people-pleasing. That's just being human together. And that, more than anything else, is what makes people like you. Likeability is not about being impressive. It's about making others feel impressive. And that is something anyone can do. If this video resonated with you, share it with someone who wants to connect more deeply without losing themselves. Subscribe for more deep dives into psychology, communication, and the art of being human. I'll see you in the next one.